Hello everyone, welcome back to the Looney Bin. My name is Looney, and today's video is going to go over some Final Fantasy VII news. This news pertains towards Part 3 of the Final Fantasy VII Remake project, as well as the Final Fantasy VII Remake project as a whole. As we received some new information from both Kitase, the producer of Final Fantasy VII Remake project, as well as Hamaguchi, who is the director of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and we have learned a few things from this conference where they showcased a few early concept art, early concept designs for a lot of the things that they showcased in Rebirth, as well as giving us little tidbits about what to expect in Part 3, as well as the overall, project in general. So I guess the first thing we should discuss is that once again they have told everyone, at the conference that they are not going to be changing the story. They are not going to change at least the major story beats, meaning that the major story beats that happen after, Aerith's death at the capital, it's still going to stay the same. There's not going to be much differences, but they will have additions to make it at least brand new, fresh. And that is one of the things they have constantly been telling people over and over again. Some people do not believe this because they want to, theorize something much grander in scale, and that may lead to creating theories that may or may not work or may not be realistic in the nature of Final Fantasy VII. The best example was after Remake, everyone thought there was a multiverse theory. Turns out it doesn't seem like that's the case because of certain stuff that not only they have said, but after playing Rebirth, the multiverse theory doesn't seem to have any sort of standing anymore. Some people still believe this and they are free to do so, but to me it just doesn't have any sort of grounds to keep. Now, one of the things I do want to mention is that they did talk about the whole Final Fantasy VII project as a whole, and they talked about the themes and concepts of the Final Fantasy VII, such as the OG Final Fantasy VII represented life. Essentially, the life of the planet, the life of the people, the life of Aerith, and the tragic result that happened. And that is all about the concept and themes of life. That yes, everything is vibrant, everything is alive, but death also matters. And that life in general is a very important message that people need to know, right? And it also goes alongside with the eco-terrorism and stuff like that. Like to save the planet, you're saving the lives of everybody and everything on the planet. So it is pretty easy to see why they, did make this theme of life for the OG of Final Fantasy VII. But then they go on to talk about the themes and concepts of the remake project. For the Final Fantasy VII Remake game, the first game of the three, they talk about it as reunion and nostalgia with some new stuff. Essentially, what they mean by reunion specifically, is that you, the player, are reunited with these characters after so long in a new, version of this game that you love and enjoy, right? And that is where the nostalgia comes in, because you who love Final Fantasy VII and love the game so much came back to Final Fantasy VII Remake because of the nostalgia you had for this game. You love these characters. You are reunited finally with these characters. And then they added new things to it to allow themselves to, bring certain things that probably couldn't do back in the day and give you a new experience. Because that's essentially what a remake is. A remake is remaking something from the ground up, something that, you have played before, and, recreating it in today's technology, but adding new things that they probably couldn't do before to give you like a fresh new experience. That is what the theme and concepts they have given for remake, and I could see why. And a lot of people have always also wondered, why did Sephiroth show up early? Why did Sephiroth show up so much times in remake when, in the OG he didn't show up until when you go into Shinra's tower, right? Well, the reason is because they wanted you to reunite with Sephiroth. That is what Hamaguchi said. They know that there's a lot of people who love Sephiroth as a villain, sometimes even more for shipping reasons, right? They love Sephiroth, and they wanted you to reunite with Sephiroth without waiting until Part 2 or Part 3 for that. That's why they wanted to showcase Sephiroth more so. And the way they did it is by mixing him in with Cloud's entire mind, freaking out. He's seeing Sephiroth over and over to try to mess with his mind, because at this point Cloud's mind is messed up after everything that he had to go through, right? And that was essentially the way they wanted to incorporate it. And I personally thought that it was fantastic. I thought that what they did was a pretty cool idea, and it worked for me. Some people do not agree, and that's perfectly fine. But I think the idea and the concept of the theme that they wanted to showcase, reunion as well as, you know, nostalgia plus new things, they did that with remake, and that's what their main goal was. Now let's move on to the theme and concept of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The theme and concept was bonds. Obviously, whenever you think of bonds, you think of the affinity system that is in Rebirth, but it's a lot more than that. But first, let's go over a little bit of the affinity system. I made a video on it, but essentially, the affinity system is a way for the player to grow the bond between Cloud and the rest of the party, as well as the other party members as well. It allows them to get closer, to become, you know, more of a party, more of, you know, a group of friends, a found family who, you know, go out and try to stop Sephiroth from destroying the planet, right? That is a perfect thing to do for a game that really heavily relies on like party mechanics and having a party. You want these characters to grow. You want these characters to bond. Why? Because that's what makes them more interesting. The relationship between the characters make these characters a lot more interesting, a lot more lively, and makes them real. You know? You want that connection between these characters. Now, a lot of people, you know, who view the affinity system as more so as like a dating sim, I do not blame them for viewing it that way, because that's what a system like this usually happens in. It's those type of games. But at the same time, once you get closer into the game, you realize, oh, it's not about who you, the player, choose. It's about showing Cloud's relationship with these characters. That's what they wanted to showcase with the affinity system. And they gave you other options. You know, they gave you, you know, certain scenes and cutscenes where they essentially have, you know, Cloud showcasing what he would do in certain situations with this character and that character. That's how you have to handle it that way, where you could showcase that bond that Cloud has with that character and what he would do if he was put in that situation. So yeah, it's really more so of Cloud's bond with these characters, and then it would make the moment at the end of the game a lot more, you know, emotional because of Cloud's bond with Aerith, right? You want Cloud and Aerith's bond to be strong, right? To the point where, like, that emotional scene where, you know, Aerith gets stabbed by Sephiroth hits you hard, right? Now, a lot of people have said over the last few months that, you know, that moment was kind of not as emotional as the OG. And for me personally, I didn't feel the same emotions that I did with the OG, right? But I think part of the reason why is because of the OG. Not that the OG was a lot more emotional, it's just that so many people have played the OG. So the emotional aspect behind that scene in Rebirth will never hit as hard as the OG did. You could make it more emotional, you could have made a more emotional scene. There was a pacing issue that I fully understand why people don't like it, because it was a recurring thing in Rebirth where like the pacing was a little off, you know, where it was too quick. But it's very hard to replicate that same feeling you felt back with the OG. Now, people who have never played Final Fantasy VII before maybe have heard about, you know, the whole thing with Aerith at some point, because let's just face it, at this point it's one of those video game moments where like it's very hard to keep secret from anyone, or hard to actually view or see it like in like articles or other YouTube videos and stuff like that, right? But like I said, it's very hard to capture that same emotion, so they tried something different. You know, they tried to view it in a different perspective, such as Cloud's point of view. So that's why I think it didn't hit you as hard, but it still presented and created that bond that you wanted to see between Cloud and Aerith, right? You wanted them to, you know, as the adventure goes on, to, you know, become closer as friends. And the more closer you become, the more stronger your bond is, and that's what they wanted to portray. And that's why they said in the conference that the theme for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was bonds, right? And to me, that really does fit a lot of how I viewed Rebirth, and it really did show, and I think they did a tremendous job with it. So then that begs the question, what would be the theme and concept in part three? So many people have wondered what it could be, loss, death, new life, that kind of stuff. To me, I think the thing that would represent it more than anything else is memories. Because think of it this way, the memories in the game are very important in terms of the live stream, because the live stream creates these worlds based off memories of people, right? It is hinted at in a lot of the conversations you have in Cosmo Canyon, where like the live stream is full of dreams, memories of people who have passed on to the live stream, or who still are alive, and that's where the live stream gets a lot of its powers from. You see in Chapter 9 Gongaga, when Tifa goes into the live stream, you see parts of her memories being shown to her. That's a huge thing, right? And as you go into the events of part 3, a lot of like memories and stuff like that really begins to show itself. You're trying to essentially find Cloud's identity through his memories, right? You probably will have moments where like the party think about the memories they shared with Aerith, on their adventure. You have the whole live stream situation with memories and how it, encapsulates like a lot of the worlds that we see. The memories that Zack had with Aerith, the memories that the other characters will have with, the whatever other story elements they will go through and stuff like that, right? But I think another reason why is that you have to look at it in a way that affects the player themselves, right? In remake, nostalgia, it's new with some new added things. You want to be reunited with these characters because that's how you probably felt with remake. In rebirth, you really saw how close you were getting with the characters and how much you loved the characters, to the point where like Aerith's death would probably leave a big impact on you. So how would you feel about part 3? A new life? I don't know necessarily if a new life would work here, but the memories that you had playing from part 1 to part 3, those are going to be very precious to you as you're finally getting closer to the end of this remake project. It's the memories that you made playing these games, the memories of these characters and all of this stuff, all the story elements, everything. That's how you can really bring the theme of part 3 to you, the player, as well as the characters in the game. I think it fits so much more better that way. Another example of memory in the game, Sephiroth in Advent Children talks about he didn't want to become a memory or just a measly memory. That's also another big part that could play a role in part 3. That's why I feel like memory is so much of a fit for as a concept and theme for part 3. And the memories of Aerith and Zack as they save the planet. Well, Aerith specifically saves the planet from Meteor, right? The memory, of her precious time with her friends. That is important to her, And even at the end, when Cloud and Tifa escape from the hole, right? They talk about wondering one day if they will see, the friends that they have lost all these years. Through their adventure, I should say, in all these years, will they be able to see them again? Those are the memories of the time they spent together with them. I think memories fit so much more than any other concept or theme you could put for part 3. But I could be wrong. They could choose something else. But choosing memories because I think memories fits the most effectively towards how I think they are trying to view the rest of the trilogy. And who knows? Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll be fine if I'm wrong too. It's just an idea and concept, right? But moving on to the other news that we were told. And it pertains more towards what we will see in part 3. And I think one of the big things is that, of course, if you have played the OG, you know about the Highwind. Highwind is a huge aircraft that you'll be able to fly around, the planet. And they have apparently incorporated something really cool with the Highwind, where you are able to not cheat the system and be able to fly with the Highwind over the entire planet of Gaia without it being something like you just being in the cockpit, right? Where you're just waiting to go on to the next area and just, teleport to the next area. Instead, they're going to incorporate it in a way where you'll be able to look down onto the land, onto like where you're trying to go. You'll be able to see it. and they somehow found a way to incorporate that. I cannot wait to see what that is, how that is handled, and just like exploring the entire world of Gaia. That's gonna be so much fun. They want you to explore this vast world. That's why they're creating this vast world. They want you to explore, and this is like one of the best ways to do it. Right? Flying all over. Because if we as humans were able to fly, you know it would be an amazing sight to see us flying over everything, all the land. You know, it would be one of the wonderful views that we could ever experience. Like whenever you go on an airplane, you always want to, check out the window and see, the land right below you. I think that is one of the biggest dreams people have, and the ability to fly, and they are going to incorporate that with the Highwind. It's going to be so fantastic, especially in a world like Final Fantasy VII that so many of us love. I cannot wait for it. But they also mentioned one last thing, and that is that the story of Part 3 has been finished. It is done. They have finished what they wanted to do. They have finished the writing. They have finished the essentially the story beats and all that. So now they're really heading into the production, which means that the voice actors will be coming in soon to record dialogue, because in order to continue the development process, they need the dialogue to be able to animate the mouths, to fit the words and stuff like that. And then you have the motion cap artists as well, who are probably going to go in soon to capture a lot of the motions that they're going to need for like the cutscenes and for like other scenes in the game. So it looks like the game is progressing really well. The last time we heard before this that they finally found something with the Highwind that they will be able to incorporate it very properly, and now we know that they not only have found it, they are now trying very hard to really make it work, and the story's finished, which means the next step will be voice actors, motion capped artists, as the team not only develops the land, the backgrounds, and the lighting, the whole system, which they have for, since Rebirth have a lot of it already. So it's really more of maybe changing some things around, as well as adding new places like Wutai, right? And then they're gonna do the cutscenes, animate the characters, and do all this and that, and create new enemies, create new bosses, and stuff like that. And then, we will finally get it. It's still likely to come out in 2027, 3 years from now, as the recording of this video. That's the most likely scenario. But I cannot wait to see what they will show. Right? The likelihood that we will see a trailer anytime soon, probably not the Game Awards this year, maybe at Summerfest next year. I doubt it. The most likely place we will see it is either late next year or at the Game Awards next year. So I cannot wait. All this new information is really fantastic, and I cannot wait to see what they do and have planned with the Highwind. So, yeah, let me know what you think, and thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment down below, and we can have a discussion. And I cannot wait to see what else they do. So, thank you so much, and have a great day.